Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our Whisper University Leadership Speaker Series. So we've done a couple of these in the past. If you happen to catch them, this is going to be another one. We have Jeff with us today. Jeff is a leadership speaker. He's a leadership coach, and he is going to go over today with us a little bit about the 5 levels of leadership. So Jeff, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction about you and about just your leadership experience?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to join and share. I love talking about leadership. I come from the corporate world where I spent 25 years as vice president of sales and marketing, and in the leadership role, met a lot of good leaders, great leaders, and some not so great leaders, I guess you would say. A little over 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to start my own business, my coaching, speaking, consulting business, and build around leadership. And so from there, I joined the John Maxwell team, became certified and licensed to teach the John Maxwell leadership skills and philosophy. And so from there, I've moved from cold Indiana to warm Florida, and my wife and I live in paradise down here, and I do all my coaching, consulting, and virtual from right here in my my own home.
Sounds like you've got a pretty good setup going. So today we're looking at 5 levels of leadership. So that is a Maxwell book, who you talked about a little bit. And you mentioned you're a Maxwell certified speaker. I'm just curious, what kind of training does that involve to be certified?
So the training is continuous, ongoing. They're always adding new and more materials and training. John Maxwell is recognized as one of the top 2 or 3 experts in the world on leadership. He was named top expert 5 years in a row by Entrepreneur magazine and different magazines. John has written over 70 books on leadership. And so through my certification, I've been trained, and again, it's ongoing, and I'm certified and licensed then to use those materials and share those with individuals and groups very much like yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't gotten to look too much into his other pieces, but obviously I did a little bit of research on this one in getting ready to do this. So you know a lot more about it than I do. In the summaries that I found in the sort of Cliff Notes versions of the pieces that I looked through, it says, for the 5 levels of leadership, the main goal is to become a true leader with a lasting impact. And I was wondering, before we get into the 5 levels, if you could break that down for me a little bit.
Yeah, and I really like what John says about that. So too many people think that this is leadership, being a boss. And unfortunately, being bossy is not a trait of a great leader. Leadership is about helping others. And so leadership skills and bosses are totally 2 different skill sets. And although many leaders today think that's just what it is, they're assigned a position, they were given a title, as we'll go into that. And that John breaks down that there's 5 different levels of leadership, and we have to continually strive to climb that ladder to the highest level, because that's where the influence comes from. And John always talks about the fact that we're not just tellers. We're not just telling people what to do. We guide them. And I love this little meme I found a couple years ago. Said, if all we do is just give directions, we're just a road sign, not a leader. And that really meant a lot to me when I read that. And it's one of those things that I thought about for a few days. And I thought, how many of us think we're leaders, and how many people think they're leaders when all they're doing is just giving directions? And that's just a road sign. You're not leading anyone anywhere. You're just telling them step by step how to take the journey, and they don't lean. And so the 5 levels of leadership talks about how we build from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and become an influential leader.
Thank you for that. So with that said, let's get a little bit into the 5 levels of leadership. So I have, my idea of what they are just in looking. So from what I could find, I've got position, permission, production, people development, and pinnacle. But I know all of those have subtitles to them, have subcategories within them, and you know a lot more about it than I do. So I would love a bit of explanation if you could.
Sure. And first of all, Suzanne, I want to compliment you on your doing the homework. As I mentioned in email last week, I could just teach from your notes that you gave me as an outline, and I didn't send you anything. So hats off. I do a lot of these and do blogs with different clients. And a lot of times they have no idea what I'm talking about, what I do. And so hats off to you and the team there. Whisper has always been very good. I've enjoyed working with the different leaders there, and you did your homework. So hats off to you. Before we get started in the 5 levels, I want to talk about some key points that I think is real important to understand. That the higher we climb as we start talking about the different levels, the higher the level of commitment of the leader. In other words, they have to be more committed as they step up the ladder, the different levels. The higher they go, the easier it is to lead. The easier it is to get people to follow you. And that's very important to understand. Also, it's important to understand we're always building on the base. Level 1's a foundation. We start there. We don't move from level 1 to 2 and remove level 1. We're always building on our base and our foundation. And as I say that, we'll never be on the same level as a leader with everyone in our group. Some people are brand new coming in. Some's been with us for years. We'll never be on the same level. We're not a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leader with everyone. Although our goal should always be to strive and grow to be a level 4 and 5 leader. So you had mentioned the 5 different levels. Level 1's about position. We'll talk about that a little bit. Level 2 is about permission. Level 3 is about production. Level 4 is about people development. And I call level 5, most of us will never reach level 5. Doesn't mean we don't strive to be there, but level 5 to me means they carve your face on mountains. And I don't think most of us are ever going to get there. It means our leadership ability and our legacy lives on long after we're gone, and people write books about us and write songs about us. Most of us will never become a level 5, but we all should be striving to become a level 4. And so let me go into each of these, and I'm just spend a little bit of time on level 1, 2, 3, and understand what they mean. And usually when I start talking to a group of leaders, of executives, I could have 25, 50, 125 executives in a room, or maybe it's just 5 or 6. And I ask them to, based on a level of 1 to 5, where do they think they are as a leader? Most will say they're a 4 or a 5. By the time we get done going through what the levels are and what it means, and I ask them again, they kind of drop their heads, and most of them say, I'm a 2, hopefully a 3 at the best, maybe a 2.5. And so it's important that we understand the different levels and where we really are, because leadership is influence. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And if I'm going to influence people, I need to be at the highest level of leadership. So what does that mean? Level 1 is the lowest level of leadership there is. We all have positions. We all have titles. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you there. But if people are only following you because of your title, so I'm the director of, I'm the VP of, I'm the whatever it is, if they're only following me because of my title, then my influence isn't going to go very far. They're only going to do what they have to do because of my title. And in many companies, you'll see people hired in from outside that no one knows anything about them. They have no history. And at that point, they come in as level 1 leaders. And many of us, that's where we come in at, as a level 1 leader. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to understand that if we stay there, pretty soon, not too many people is going to be following us. Our influence is only in our small group, and they're only going to do what they have to do. Now, the next level, and again, we're building on top of this. Our next level is to get to relationship level, level 2. Level 2 leaders have built a relationship with their team. People like them. Maybe they are on the same bowling team. They're in the same golf league. They have some of the same hobbies. Kids go to the same school. And we start building a relationship with our team. So level 2 leaders is about making sure that people follow us because they like us. Now, there's a challenge with that. They follow us and our influence is there because they like us, but they only like us until we tell them to do something or ask them to do something or have to correct them in a way that they don't like. And the second that happens, we lose our level 2 leadership and we fall back to level 1. And many leaders don't understand that we can always fall back. We don't necessarily get someplace and we're there forever. So level 2 leaders is built on relationship. And what that means is that if something happens and they don't like me, they don't like what I said, they don't like the directions I had to give, they don't like the recommendations or the criticism or the job I gave them, then guess what? I fall back to level 1 as a level 1 leader. And so we're always striving to grow, and we have to understand that what each of those mean. A level 2 is really about permission. They're going to follow me because they give me permission to lead them. I'm only leading through permission. It's better than just leading because of my title. It means they want to follow me. But the second something happens that changes that relationship, I can fall back to a level 1 leader, and we need to understand that. And it's a dangerous place to be. Now, level 3 is much better. Level 3 is built on production. A level 3 leader has already done the job, the task. They're very proficient in whatever it is that they're leading the team. Most of my executive clients come in as level 3 leaders. And here's what that means. Let me just give you a quick synopsis of the conversation I have with the president of the company. So the president of the company calls me and says, Jeff, you've been referred to me as an executive coach. And I want you to coach my, let's say, vice president of sales. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about it. Well, he's one of the best salespeople I've ever met. Jeff, he was number 1 in the country, broke every record the company's had 5 years in a row. And the VP of sales moved out, and he was the obvious choice. I moved him up VP of sales. Said, okay, and then what? So, well, for the first few months, everything was great. But then it just started going downhill, and I don't know. I'm either going to lose the sales team or I'm going to lose him. They don't seem to get along. And level 3 leaders they become the leader because they were good at what they were doing. But the challenge with that is that they don't understand how to lead people. They don't understand how to influence people. Level 3 leaders, many of them just think that, well, I'll just go in and tell them to do exactly what I did, and we'll get the exact same results, and they'll all break records, and I'm going to be the biggest hero in the company, and they'll follow me because I know how to do it. Well, in the real world, that doesn't work that way. We're all different. We have different personalities. We have different individuals. Different things drive us, and we do things different ways. And if I concentrate on just getting it done the way I want to do it, the way I did it, I'm going to get frustrated. The people I'm leading gets frustrated. And all of a sudden, it's no longer about, well, what did you do to get the position? It becomes, what have you done for me? What have you done for me? And all of a sudden, if you're asking, what have you done for me? And your team's asking that, and it's just, well, I told you what to do. Suzanne, what level do you think we're going to go back to?
Gonna drop you down a little bit. I would say back to a 1.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll follow me a little bit better than a 1 because they still like me, but it's like, come on, man. I was excited. I was excited to have you move up so I could learn, and you're not teaching me anything. You're just telling me.
Right.
And level 3 leaders get stuck. And here's what's interesting. So I just shared with you the conversation I get from the president or CEO of the company. Let me share with you now the first or second phone call with this executive level 3 leader. He says, Jeff, let me be honest with you. I know that the president of the company hired you because I'm not doing a very good job leading. And let me tell you what the problem is. It's my people. It's my people. They won't listen to me. They won't do what I tell them to do. They think they have other ideas. And I just listen and I say, there's your challenge. That's the first thing we got to work on. Because what happens is, and I've heard this so many times in the last 5 years, well, if the boss had just let me fire everybody and start new, I could hire people and train them right to start with. In other words, I want to make them clones of me. I want to find a bunch of clones to do exactly as I say and follow my rules. And that's not good leadership. And so you got moved up for the position because people like you. You got moved up because you are very good at doing the task and the skill set needed that you need your team to do. And now you have the title, but you can't sit there. And too many executives sit there, and that's where the discontent comes from the team. So now we're at level 4, and level 4 is what we should all strive for. Level 4 is where things start happening. Any questions so far, Suzanne?
I have a couple. I'm saving them for the end, but I've got a few in my notes over here.
All right. Let's talk about level 4. Level 4 is about people development. Level 4 is not about what I did. It's not about who I am. It's not about my title. It's about developing people and bringing people along with me. It's about investing in my team. Level 4 leaders are always investing in the growth of their team. I always think it's interesting that most of my clients I work with on an executive leadership level, it's the president of the company, the CEO of the company, the director of the division who hires me to coach one of their executives. And there's always a pushback, usually for a few weeks, maybe a couple months, from the executive I'm coaching because he doesn't think he needs trained. He doesn't think he needs coached. And because he's thinking he already has broke all the records, he knows what it takes, and no one will listen to him. And so we have to break through that barrier to understand that it's not about us. Level 4 leadership has nothing to do with the actual leader. It's about his people. It's about teaching their people. It's about coaching their people. It's about growing their people. Level 4 leaders, John Maxwell says, can be summed up in one word: reproduction. I reproduce people who are leaders. Level 4 people reproduce leaders. A company I worked for 24 years in the corporate world. I remember when I hired in and talking to the owner of the company and what he said, and I heard the same thing for 24 years. If you want to move up in my company, you need to bring someone else up that can take your place. And you need the person ahead of you to be bringing you along so you can take their place. And hopefully somebody's bringing them along so they can take someone else's place. It's always about investing in the person who's going to take my place. It's about trying to find people who I can invest time in, not spend time in with. That's a great thing I read in one of John Maxwell's books. Too many leaders think they spend time with people instead of investing time with people. I don't want to spend time with my team. I want to invest time with them. And if I'm investing, I'm going to get a return on that. And so I'm always trying to grow somebody. If I'm in a leadership position, I should be trying to grow my next leader, the person, my replacement. I want to not only make them as good as me, I want to make them better than me. Because if they're better than me and I'm doing my job, then I'm going to get pushed up, not down. I'll get pushed up. Remember in the other 3 levels, we said most leaders fall down. We fall from a 3 to a 2 to a 1. A level 4 leader gets pushed up because he's bringing others along with him. And so why would you do that? Well, it's very simple. When there are more leaders, the organization's mission becomes much easier. When I have more leaders on my team, I'm not threatened, but too many leaders get threatened. They're threatened if somebody's has knowledge. They're threatened if someone comes in with a high skill level, and they don't understand that makes them better. And so level 4 leadership is about developing people who have leadership potential. I read a couple articles and stories on Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. Their HR department, when they're hiring people in, they could be warehouse person, it could be the janitor, but if they recognize some possible leadership skills in a person, they mark that. In other words, they as a possible leader down the road. Doesn't matter where they hired in at. And Google and Apple. I've got my best friend's son started at Apple 2 or 3 years ago, was immediately designated to join their Future Leaders program. In other words, he started a brand new job, not as a leader, not even close to being a leader. He writes code, but they designated him as a possible leader in the future. And he has 3 years been in a leadership development program. They're developing their leaders. I work with multiple clients who are always investing in teaching their leaders. Whisper, I've been out there at least 3, maybe 4 times. And it's interesting that every time I'm out there, the company's gotten bigger and bigger, not because I got out there, it's because of the leadership team and everything that's going on there. But they're always investing in training. They're investing in training the salespeople. They're investing in training their technicians. They're investing in training their leadership people. I've got multiple clients that I speak 3-4 times a year to their leadership team, and all of them are very successful and growing. Not because of what I bring them, because they understand that to grow, to be successful in a company, you have to invest in your people, and you have to grow leaders. Level 4 is all about growing leaders. That's where the growth comes from. John Maxwell says that the growth and development of people is really the highest calling of a leader. That's what we're called to do. We're not called to be bosses. We're not called to be managers. Now, a great leader is also a great manager. But we're called to develop people, to help people grow, to mentor people, to teach people, to create more leaders. And not everyone's born to be a leader. Not everyone wants to be a leader. So you have to be able to identify those people who are potential leaders who have that ability that if they want to be a leader, they could be. And then you start nurturing that. You put them in programs, you train them. You don't discourage them from doing things that leaders do. Okay. You make sure they stay in the scope, but you're always encouraging and nurturing future leaders. It's interesting that when an executive or a leader becomes a level 4 leader, it's like a light bulb goes off in their head. They understand that all of a sudden it's not about them climbing the ladder. It's not about them advancing themselves. It's about them advancing the team. And if they're leading the team and they're advancing the team, they're going to go up the ladder. You have to. There's no way about it. It's just the way it happens. Now, again, the challenge we have to remember is I can't stop doing that. I can't move one person up, and that makes me a level 4 leader forever, because there are others saying, what about me? What about me? And so level 4 leadership is always about growing your team. It's always about the focus is on your people. And then they follow you because they know that if you make a decision they may not agree with, they're going to follow you and do it because they know you're doing it in the best interest of them and the company. If you have to make a tough decision, they may not agree with that decision, but they're going to carry it out because they know you're looking out for their best interest. You're looking out for the fellow employee's best interest. You're looking out for the company's best interest. There's never a question on why you're doing it. It's not, well, that made them look good, but look at the rest of us. Level 4 leaders, teams want to follow them. Level 4 leaders have more influence over their team and accomplish more than any other leaders because people understand it's always in their best interest because they're always learning and growing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. So I have a couple of questions going through here. Do we want to touch on level 5? Let's see.
Well, I always say with level 5, like I said earlier, level 5 is about building a legacy. Level 5 is taking level 4 to the next level. In other words, a level 5 leaders, as I said earlier, they put your face on coins and dollars. They carve your face in mountains, and that would be cool, but I don't think that's going to happen for me. You never know. I tell most executives, you know what? Strive for level 4, and level 4 is where things really start happening. And if you become a level 5, that is fantastic. Right. But I think most of us would get frustrated trying to strive to be a level 5.
All right. So now that we've gone over the basics of the levels, so how do we use these levels and use the principles of the levels to grow as leaders? So if somebody has started at a level 1, how can they look at this and say, well, I want to get to a level 4? What ways can we use these as an example of how to move forward in our leadership skills?
Well, first thing I would say is they need to quit thinking of themselves as a boss. They need to quit hanging on to their title. I actually know a person who was promoted to president of a company after his predecessor retired after 15 years. This gentleman was promoted to president of the company. The company had 5 different divisions. And the first thing he did was have 5 different business cards made saying he was a president of that division. John Maxwell always says this: if you got to tell people you're a leader, you're not. In other words, it's not about my title. It's not about my card. It's not about my business card. It's not about where I am on the flow chart. I can have no title and be a great leader. And we've all met people who have no title and are great leaders, okay? If you're a leader, that just means you're helping people and people are influenced by your decisions and what you do. So first of all, if I'm a level 1, throw away your business card. Don't put it in front of your face so you see it all the time, and quit hanging your hat on that. Okay. Understand that you're a level 1. You're at the basement. Really. I mean, if level 1 leaders understood that they're the lowest level leader, I think they'd quit bragging about it. Okay. Level 2 leaders is because people like us. All right. I've made an effort. I went out there and tried to get people to understand who I am, and I need to understand them. I coached one executive for 3.5 years, and the first time I went to the president of a big factory, and the first time I went there, we talked for a couple hours, and I said, "Give me a tour of the place." He walked around the whole building, probably 50 people, and only called one person by name. And when I asked him about it, he said, "Well, I don't know their names." How long they worked there? Longer than I have. He took over his dad's company. I said, "Well, let me ask you, how many of them would say they like you? Not because you're the boss. How many would say they like you?" "Well, they don't know me." I said, "All right, guess what? We got to work on that." And that's a level 2 leader, getting to know people and their families and their hobbies. And with a lot of leaders, I ask them that. Even level 3 leaders sometimes skip that level 2. They were appointed a position. And I say, "Well, what do you know about your team?" I was talking to one the week after Christmas, and I remember this. And I said, "Let me ask you this. You got 15 people under you. How many of them do you know what their Christmas was like? What their kids' Christmas was like? What their family Christmas was like?" He said, "Well, none of them." I said, "Do you see a problem there? You have no relationship." Level 2 is about relationships and building those relationships. And then we move to level 3, and that means we know what we're talking about. We can get her done. But it's not about us getting it done. I see a lot of level 3 leaders that'll just kind of say, "Look, just let me do it. I can do it. I can do it faster than you. It's just easier for me to do it than teach you. It's easier for me to do it, know it's going to get done, than have to explain it to you." We're not teaching anybody anything. And people don't like that. People want to learn. And so we have to understand first, to answer your question, first, what level we're on. And then we have to understand the steps we take. You can't go from level 1 to 4, right? I can't go from level 1 to level 4 if you don't like me and I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't go from level 2 to level 4. Many companies try that. Okay. But don't tell me, try to lead me in how to do something if you have no idea how to do it yourself. We have to be able to lead by knowing and having that knowledge. So we have to work our way up from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And it's interesting, as I do these leadership workshops with different companies, as I mentioned earlier, most people think they're a 4. I've met a few that said they were a 5. Okay. But then afterwards, they'll say, "I'm a 2. I'm a 3. I've had people I've coached for months in executive leadership, and it may be 3 or 4 months down the road, they say, "Jeff, remember when you asked me what level I was and told me to write it down? I didn't really tell you. I was really a level 1, and I was too embarrassed to say that." It's okay. We have to know where we are. We all start as level 1. We all have a title. The key is don't hang your hat on that being where you're going to stay.
Got it. I've heard people say that before, that you have to learn people's names, and that's one of the most important things. I have a few leadership books in the back in the shelves here, and that's a common theme, so it's interesting that you bring that up again. Going on that, how important would you say communication is as a leader to moving up those ranks? Obviously, you want to know people's names, but once you get past that point, how important does communication become, say, in moving from a level 3 to a level 4 and building that level of trust?
So John Maxwell came out with a book a couple years ago, says everyone communicates and few connect. And it's interesting. I know what you're saying about communication, but here's what John Maxwell says. We're in a world today where we communicate with people more than ever. How many interoffice emails do you get? How many text messages do you get? We're communicating all the time. To grow a team, to grow as a leader and move up the different levels, we need to connect. Connecting is getting to know your name, getting to know a little bit about you, getting to know a little bit about your family. What's your hobby? What do you want to be? What do you strive to be? What's your favorite things that you like? Because when those things happen, those are connections. And if I were to ask you right now, think of your closest, we call them friends, could be people at work. They know a lot more about you and you know a lot more about them than everybody else, right? That's a connection. That has nothing to do with the communication. Does that make sense? So communication, communication's important, but it's not the most important thing. It's the connection. Connection will come through communication. But if I just ask you your name, ask you your hobby, ask you your favorite movie type, if I ask you what your favorite sport team is, I don't necessarily have a connection with you, but we communicated, right? Connection would be taking it to the next step. So let me just give you a quick example here, and I know we're coming up on time. So what's your favorite sports team?
Let's see. We've got baseball back this year. Let's go with the Cardinals.
Okay. Why? Why do you like the Cardinals?
Where I'm from St. Louis. I'm a St. Louis girl. You got to love the Cardinals.
How long have you been from in St. Louis area?
Forever.
All your life? You ever plan on leaving there?
I've thought about it, but I always come back.
What's your favorite thing about living in St. Louis area?
Let's see. I like to tell people that St. Louis is the kind of town that other people can talk bad about it, but if you're from St. Louis, you are so proud of it that you're never going to say anything about it. And I love that about it. I love the city pride, the hometown pride of St. Louis and people that live here.
So do you see the difference between connecting and communications?
I do.
Communication is what's your favorite sports team? And then we'll go on to the next one. Now, it really isn't about the Cardinals. It isn't about baseball. It's your love of your hometown and why you love it and how passionate you are about that. That's connecting. And leaders, great leaders, connect with their team. They communicate, but they connect. I always look at it this way, and you've heard this story before. Somebody gets invited to this big gala, this celebration. All the community bigwigs are there, and somebody says, "Well, who did you meet?" "Oh man, this person came up and sat down next to me, and I couldn't believe they shook my hand, and then they spent 15 minutes telling me how great they are." So, well, that you got to meet them. Said, "Yeah, but let me tell you about this other one. They sat down and for 15 minutes they asked me about me." One communicated, the other connected. Okay. Which one do you think has the most influence with that person now going forward?
Communication. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not
connection. Yeah.
It's never about me. It's always about you. I want to know about you. I want to know what you like and tell me about your, why you do what you do. And if we do that, I have a connection. And just go back to the factory. And he is very good at that now. Okay. I was there about a year and a half ago. He could tell me everything about every single person in their family. Now he had to work at it. Okay. And I'll go back to one of the first things I said, as we move higher, we have to work harder at it. Okay. But level 4 is about not just communicating, getting to know their names. It's about having a connection with them, to be able to ask them how their family is, to be able to ask them how their son did in sports, how their daughter's doing with virtual school. That helps you become a top level leader.
Makes sense to me. I think we are coming up on the end of our time. We have you coming in, not next week, but the week after. We're going to expand on this a little bit and look at the law of the lid of leadership. I've looked at that one a little bit, but I need a bit more research on that one, I think. So I am going to work on that. For anybody who might be listening, if you have any questions, now is your time to ask them. And, if you think of them afterwards, we'll throw them out in the next one. Like I said, Jeff is coming back to talk to us again. So any follow-up questions you might have, be sure to leave those for us and we'll get to them next time. But thank you so much again for coming to talk to us. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the next one. And I guess we'll wrap it up for today. If you have any final points you wanted to make.
I would just say, I always like talking to people about leadership. Too many people. I was fortunate for 25 years to work for a great leader. I thought that's how all leaders were. Then I worked for a not so great leader, and I realized there are people that's all they know. So if anyone would like to talk about leadership or leadership coaching, training, they can get a hold of me at jeff.raver@begintowinnow.com. That's all one word, begintowinnow.com. And I look forward to coming back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the law of the lid, and it feeds off of this and kind of just tying it together. If somebody's watched this one and they're going to watch the next one, I challenge them to figure out, where's your lid? Are you a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4? And because we got to know where that lid is, and that's affecting our leadership ability. Thanks again for being a great host.
Absolutely. Like I said, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Again, leave us your questions. Come back for the next one. If you want to watch any of our previous leadership series, they are all on our Whisper University YouTube and also on our Whisper University Facebook. Make sure you find us there, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.